and thank you for attending the upgrade webinar that we're presenting here, and the title of it is Take the Easy Path. The next slide will get into what our agenda looks like here in a second. So what we'll do is we'll go through some quick introductions. I'll give you a quick background of High Street, and then we'll go through the reasons for the upgrade. We'll discuss in more detail the upgrade paths. We'll summarize everything, and we'll give an opportunity for Q&A at the end. Just so everyone knows, all the lines are muted, and we will unmute those at the end towards the Q&A session. And also, you can send any questions you have during the presentation through the chat function if you would like, and we'll try to address those, as well as obviously towards the end we'll open up the lines and answer any direct questions as well. And our hope is to get everything done in about a 45-minute time frame, so that would be beneficial, I think, to everybody. So let's get into who is on the line here today. I'm speaking currently. This is Bill Smythe again. I'm the Vice President with High Street, and I'm part of the Oracle practice. Also, Sean McGuire will be presenting. He is the lead for our Oracle EBS practice. And then we'll have Rob and Linus join in. They're both directors in our practice. Rob from a technical, functional role standpoint, and Linus has got tremendous expertise around the applications from the DBA area. Next slide. What I wanted to say here, there's some information about High Street, but we're formerly ESG Enterprise Solutions Group, but we're now High Street ESG. At a high level, we're focused on helping our clients to implement, upgrade, expand, maintain, or modify your application infrastructure to support your current business requirements and future growth. We both base our solutions on industry best practices so you can maximize the value of your Oracle applications and environment. We've been around since the mid-90s. We're an Oracle Platinum partner. We have certifications in numerous areas with Oracle. We've done hundreds of successful implementations and upgrades. Another key thing that I think is important is we participate at the national and regional conferences, the Open World that collaborates, and we're asked to present at those on a regular basis. We also have a focused practice around the Financials Accounting Hub, which is a tremendous tool to assist customers, our clients, to get non-Oracle information integrated into your financials, into your general ledger package. The other areas that we've got offerings and great expertise is also we're an Oracle Certified Education Partner. We can provide training, change management services, as well as we've got a cloud enabled for managed service solutions. So we can provide a range of managed services solutions for hosting, infrastructure management through your applications, operations, and software support for the cloud. So that's just kind of a high level of who's presenting today and who High Street is. Now we'll get into the meat of it. So this next portion of this, is the reasons for the upgrade, and that's what we'll be getting into now and getting into deeper dive into some of these areas. Some of these are very obvious. The first one being new business changes. There can be many different changes within your organization that may require you to desire to do an upgrade, whether it's from a business the business specific standpoint, or some technologies that relate into the business that may cause you to upgrade. You may have some issues with your current configuration around your environment and your applications that could cause you to have some issues with your processes. There could be other things on the outside of your organization that could be driving need to do an upgrade, such as some regulatory type of issues. There could be other outside influence as well around mergers and acquisitions. We're dealing with clients all the time that go through mergers, acquisitions, and large changes in their business, and they have to absorb those into your environments. Another area too is the hardware. I mean, we've dealt with clients that are on very early versions of the e-business environment, and and with that they've done nothing around their hardware infrastructure, and that has caused some major problems with their environments. And a big thing that's glaring, that's constant, that's all the time, is the Oracle support. You have different, and we'll get into more details around that, you have different cycles of when those support levels are ending.
And this is Sean McGuire, and as Bill introduced, I run the Oracle EBS practice for High Street. And as Bill was saying, we do have a number of customers who are still on older versions of the applications, and we just want to make sure that they're aware of what's happening with the support offerings from Oracle. And a number of them also have hardware and infrastructure-related issues that would be much more easily addressed in conjunction with an upgrade or a migration if they're on an older platform and they want to get onto a newer, more modern platform. And those can all be done during the upgrade process. Some of the benefits that come out of upgrade, and we're looking specifically around 12.2, the big new thing just for 12.2 by itself is that there's now online patching. And this is something that many customers with EBS have wanted for years and years and years. As opposed to having, once you're on 12.2, not the act of getting to 12.2 itself, but once you're on 12.2, patches can be applied while the system is up and in use by the business. And then once the patching is done being applied, it can be you switch from the current version that you're running on to the patched version by basically effectively bouncing the environment. There's a few other commands you have to do, but it takes only a few minutes to execute the switch. And so the outage that EBS customers have historically experienced of a long weekend or something like that for an upgrade, once you get to 12.2, those types of windows should be significantly reduced. There's also a number of just pure kind of technology things that obviously you're getting onto 12.2. There's the whole underlying tech stack for the applications is updated. One of the main pieces is that it now incorporates the WebLogic as part of the application tier. So all of the JSP-related pages are now driven off of the WebLogic application server. One of the main benefits that comes out of looking at 12.2 now is that there is actually a direct upgrade path to 12.2. So if you're on 11.5, 10, 2 plus some baseline patches or better, then it is possible to go directly from that version of applications to 12.2. You don't have to upgrade to 12, to 12.1, to 12.1.3 with a bunch of interim patches. You can get directly to 12.2. And that is, previously, if you wanted to get to 12.1.3, you would have had to go to 12 and 12.1 and then 12.1.3. So it would have taken many more steps, and each of those steps was significant, and relative to the outage window would have taken a significant amount of time. There's one main prerequisite to being able to go directly to 12.2, and that is that the database version that you're running on does have to already be at least 11.203. If you're not at 11.203, you can upgrade to 11.203 or higher, any one of the certified variations of 11.203 or higher. And that can be done as I'll call it a co-requisite during the upgrade. So we can upgrade the database and the applications in the same window, or those two pieces can be handled in serial, doing the database first and then doing the applications. The database, the 12.1c version of the database is now certified with the applications, including all the way back to 11.5.10.2 plus. So we can upgrade to the newest version of the database and then do the upgrade of the applications, or it can, like I said, can be done in conjunction. There are also literally thousands of new features in the applications in Release 12 and 12.1 and 12.1, all of the 12.1 iterations and into 12.2. So there are many new functional reasons to look at the applications. This upgrade, we don't go through all of the details of that. That's would be part of an assessment, really, to figure out which of those might be of benefit to you particularly. And the last bit is also kind of a new feature, but starting with 12.1 and higher, there's some coexistence capabilities that are built into the applications now, so that if you want to try and leverage some of Oracle's cloud offerings, you can directly integrate with the cloud offerings, in particular the cloud reporting offering, and it is now a standard feature of the product to be able to integrate with that. So you don't have to do any special coding to be able to take the EBS environment and then get like the Fusion Cloud reporting off of it. That can just be literally set up, and as long as you have licensed the Fusion reporting component from cloud, then you can use that as well. The one note I think I skipped there on the DB upgrade, you can upgrade directly to 12.1c provided you're already at least on a version 10.2.05 version and you're on a certified database version. Next, I want to talk about from a support perspective where things currently sit and how, so everybody just gets a good picture of where they are. Right now, first from a database, there's always two support perspectives. You have to be both your database version support and your application version support. So first, looking at the database version support, the Premier support is already over for 10.2 and 11.1. And for 11.2, which a lot of folks who were thinking they're current, the Premier support actually ends in January for 11.2. So from a support perspective from the database side, if you want to stay on a current database version, you need to be looking at a minimum at a database upgrade in the very near term to get onto 12.1. So you're on a certified and supported database version. If you're still on 10.2 or 11.1, the extended support actually is ending in August of next year. So you got less than a year left on the extended support, which again is all the more reason to be looking at the database upgrade side of it, as I said, at a minimum. From an application standpoint, if you're on 11.5.10 already, you're into indefinite support as it sits right now. But if you're already on R12, the 12.0 release is already in extended support today, and the extended support on R12 will be ending in January 15, along with the 11.2G database support. So if you're on a 12.0, you want to be looking at upgrading to 12.1, 12.2 as quickly as you can, so you can stay out of the indefinite support bucket. The 12.1 support, if you're on 12.1, that is good until the end of 16. So you've got a couple of years left on 12.1. So if you're in the 12.1 range and you're really just looking at the database to make sure you're on the 12.1, you want to be on 12.1. 12.1 database and or 12.1 applications. That's the current supported version for both, at least. And then obviously 12.2 is the current version of the apps and is in full support. Just to make sure people are, the notes down here about the extended support, there were 3 additional years of extended support they're available for an additional fee.
So that's important.
Yeah, you can't pick that piece up at an additional fee. Next, we're talking about just the actual path itself for how to get from one of those versions to the supported database and application path. And the good news that Oracle really has cleaned up with 12.1 and 12.2 is now we've eliminated a lot of these intermediate stops. You can go directly from the database side from 10.2.05 to 12.1. You can go from 11.107 to 12.1. You can go from 11.2 to 12.1, so you can get directly to 12.1. You don't have to do a number of intermediate database upgrades to get there. There are the prerequisites around that are listed in here in terms of the dot releases, so you would have to at least get onto those current dot releases in order to be able to do the upgrade directly to the database side. From the application standpoint, again, as long as you're on 11.5.10.2, and I say 11.5.10.2 plus because there's some additional baseline patches that are required in addition to 11.5.10.2, but as long as you have those patches applied, then you can go directly from that version of the application to 12.2. You do not have to do all the intermediate steps. The one caveat to that, as I said before, is that you have to be at least already on an 11.203 database to be able to do it directly. So if you've already upgraded your database at least to 11.203, then you can just do the applications upgrade to 12.2. There is no additional database upgrade required. If you are not at least on 11.203, you must upgrade to at least 11.203, but as you can see, since you can go from 10 and 11 earlier ones directly to 12, we would recommend going more directly to the 12.1c version of the database, and then doing the application upgrade. And as I said before, you can do the database and the application in the same upgrade window. So we can upgrade your database and your applications in one outage, so that it's not, it is a direct path. In terms of laying out the choices, there are a number of intermediate choice steps that you could, ways you could approach the upgrade. So we've laid out a few of them, given them kind of a label so we can discuss what the pros and cons of those are. We'll go through the pros and cons in a few minutes here, next couple of slides. But your basically choices are you can stay where you are. That's where many people are right now. They've just have been sitting. And we're looking at a minimum right now. You'd want to make sure you're getting the database upgrade and staying current from a database support standpoint. To be fully supported, you need to upgrade the apps and the database. You could do, if you're already on an 11.2 database, you could do the apps only, and that would be the minimum to get you up to a supported version if your database is already there. To get completely current, we would recommend upgrading to 12.2 on the app side and 12.1 on the database side. And then there's two real approaches to it. It's really kind of a continuum, but there's a simplistic version of that which says, I'm going to upgrade those, and I'm going to try and do as little other change as possible while I do that upgrade. So I'm not intentionally trying to unplug customizations. I'm not intentionally trying to implement new functionality. I'm just trying to get, from a technical and application standpoint, the upgrade complete and be successful with it, and then deal with the new functionality and those types of things as a phase 2 activity. Other customers want to take a more, I'll call it a full approach, where they're looking at it and saying the whole purpose for doing the implementation or the upgrade is to implement new functionality, to get new business benefit out of new features or capabilities, new modules, and in order to leverage those, you need to complete the upgrade. And so in addition to upgrading the database and the applications at the same time, you can also be adding new functionality, adding new modules, and that can all be done in one shot, which allows you to kind of get double use out of your implementation, testing, and validation cycle, so you're not calling on the business multiple times to validate an upgrade and then validate the functionality. The last choice in this continuum is to re-implement. And you could re-implement directly into 12.2, or you could re-implement into Fusion applications. Either of those is a possibility. If you're re-implementing and you feel you're very vanilla and you don't need any customization at all, then Fusion applications would be a consideration. They are available now, and they would be cloud-based applications. But because they're cloud-based applications, the ability to customize what is there is significantly limited. So you have to be comfortable with a very, very out-of-the-box configuration for the cloud. If you're not comfortable with the cloud-based, then you're looking at more likely staying in the applications and just doing a re-implementation. The reasons for re-implementing we'll discuss in a little bit more detail in one of the subsequent slides where we describe these, but it is basically that you have changes in your environment that don't upgrade well. It would be best done during implementation. Two other options, they're not, this is not an extension of that other option list, the previous option list, but it's in conjunction with those. You can look, as I said, you can look at Fusion Cloud applications as a possibility if you're re-implementing, or the Fusion Cloud can also be done in a coexistence model, so that's one of the features of the newer applications. So you can leverage one of the sets of new features you could be leveraging are features out of the Fusion applications. In addition to that, you could also be looking at hosting in general for the upgrade itself, or for your ongoing, just for the upgrade cycles, or it could be looked at for a longer-term solution. And in particular for customers who are looking at upgrading where they're on older hardware platforms, and you'd be looking at a migration as well, potentially during the upgrade, hosting is a really good option to consider. The value for service on it is quite good. You don't have to worry as much about maintaining sizing as you grow, and app support features are available, things like that. You can discuss some of those pieces in some of the subsequent slides as well. So now to talk about the individual options and a little bit of the pros and cons of it. So you could, the do nothing option is where most people who are on the phone call now have been sitting, at least in some form, for a little bit. And I think we're all familiar with you're trying to delay the costs or trying to avoid the effort associated with the re-implementation, and the risks associated with that are that there's a lack of support from Oracle, and as that moves towards the indefinite support, you're getting significantly less support from Oracle. You may be out of compliance with, and depending on the company that you're with and your public-private status, things like that, you may be out of compliance for what you need audit perspectives. There's just the risk to being able to continue to operate in general is what that's all referring to. And obviously we're deferring any future functional benefit or the ability to leverage new hardware in the process. Looking at that minimum upgrade, and the minimum upgrade that we described was really just focusing on the database side. And it's saying that my application meets my business need, I have a lot of customization, it would be expensive to move, and I don't see a lot of benefit in doing it. However, I want to be able to stay in some degree of support. And, so the most likely thing to break, if you've been on 11.5.10 for a while, the chances of it breaking on you now any more than it already are pretty low. However, the chances of having an issue with the database at some point are really statistically almost inevitable. I mean, the hardware fails, disks fail, things fail, you will have database issues that you have to maintain on an ongoing basis. You'd want, ideally you want to be in a supported environment should you have any of those issues. So this is looking at the database here and saying, can we just upgrade the database and get at least the database portion of things back into support? It's the lowest cost option in terms of getting some bang for the buck. It's the least disruptive because you're not changing business process. The use and look of the application doesn't change. We just need to make sure that in the process of updating the database side, that the application, any extensions that you have will support the new database version. There are any issues that way. There is also the opportunity to take advantage from hardware side. If we're splitting off the database can be partitioned off. It can be migrated to another platform at this. You could host the database at this point. These are all options that become available when you're considering this as an upgrade choice. Looking at what we call the support upgrade, this is saying that if you're already on a current database release, you're already on the 11.2 database release, say at least, but you're just looking at the applications and you want to true up the application side, this would get that piece caught up. And it's basically the other half of that first, the minimal equation thing. I just want to take the database and get it, or the application side and get it current so that I have support around issues for the applications. It also gives you the ability on the applications tier to leverage new hardware, new features, but not necessarily required in this port. Again, at this point, we're saying we're just doing the minimal upgrade so that it's on the new version. If we want to functionality, that would be a phase 2 activity during this type of an upgrade. The Get Current Lite is really the combination of those two. It's saying I'm going to get the database and the application current, and I'm going to only deal with the rework that's required. Or usually if you're going to do both these at this point, you're going to also take a good look at any customizations that you have that could be unplugged and say, can I get these pulled out so I have a lower cost of ownership going forward because I have less customizations to maintain. The pros of this type of it is you're getting fully compliant, fully supported environment you're done. You have access to all the new features. You can run it on whatever hardware or hosted environments you want. And it's a little bit bigger project than just doing those minimal support things, but it gives you, it's not as big as a re-implementation or something where you're trying to add a lot of functionality. So it's kind of a medium-sized activity. Then the Get Current Full is saying you want to do everything that you're doing from the upgrade standpoint in the previous one, but now we are going to try and leverage new functionality. We're going to look at business processes. We're going to re-engineer things. And this is, if you have configurations which were originally done during the implementation that now in hindsight you would choose to do differently, or that because your business has evolved or changed, or you've merged, or you've bought new divisions, that you would simply configure things in a different fashion. We have a number of customers we work with, even some we're working with right now, going through where they're combining environments or other activities that can be looked at along the lines of this type of an upgrade. And then the last step on that scale was the re-implementation. Re-implementation is, at least from my perspective, it's a last resort. Most types of configurations can be changed or revised within the existing environment. However, there are a few, particularly if you're going through significant chart changes or significant business organization, legal entity structure type changes, where it's not simply setting up a new operating unit and doing things a little bit differently. It's a full reconfiguration of the applications that a re-implementation is your best bet. The challenge with the re-implementation is historical data does need to be converted. So that is one of the bigger, that's part of the higher cost under the cons, is that you've got to bring along your historical data. The good news is that if you had a lot of historical data and you wanted to take advantage of that opportunity to do some archive and purge type activity, so you brought less history over, that's a possibility, and to get you to kind of a clean, the upside of it is you have a clean, fresh environment that's just being configured. You only convert the history that really is appropriate, so you don't have to carry everything over. That's the upside. As we, having gone through those options, you have to add what does High Street bring to the table amongst those options. One of the main things we've done to try and help our customers attack the upgrade issue is develop an assessment tool to help analyze their environment to determine what's required to complete the upgrade. And so that's the tool. It's an automated tool. It will read through the configuration of the environment. It reads through the structures of what's registered as an extension and a customization, and we can tell what parts of the application have been changed or not. And based on that, we can do an assessment based on the output of that analysis to determine where work will need to be performed in order to make the upgrade successful. In addition, it identifies a number of issues that may be upgrade issues in the future, and as you have an opportunity, particularly if they're related to extension work that may not have been implemented in a non-invasive way or won't be supported based on the changes going forward, it's an opportunity to say we're going to do some rework on these items, and we can do the rework prior to the upgrade in a way that will make the extensions, the technical and functional configuration items configured in a way that's compatible with the upgrade. A perfect example of this is the way that organizations are identified in Release 12 and above changes significantly from the way it was in 11.5 and before. And so any extension that tries to establish what organization it's in, there's just different APIs to be called to configure that. And this is can identify that type of work, and there's ways that we can recode those things so that it will, based on, if you're still in the 11.5 environment, it will instantiate your inventory order the old way, and if you're in a 12 or newer environment, it'll instantiate it the new way, and that way it'll work either way. And so that's what we mean by we can make the we can upgrade your extensions in a backward compatible way, so that you don't have to do all that rework in the middle of the upgrade and then worry about how it's going to work as the upgrade. The other piece that we bring to the table is we have hosting services. And so as a way to try and take the load off your current environment, a lot of times we have customers that have very limited bandwidth within their infrastructure to support additional environments for testing, and so those they need the environments they have to continue to support their current operations. So this is a way for us we can take a copy of the current production environment and we can move that to the hosted environment. We can do all of the upgrade rework on copies of the environment, and then we can make it together. We can make a choice as to whether you want to keep the upgrade environment on a hosted going forward, or you want to just leverage what you've learned in that process and then apply that to actually doing the upgrade in your environment on premise. A couple of other things that we do bring is built that we are a certified Oracle training partner, and as part of that, we offer what we call Delta training. So for folks who are familiar with the way that if you're live on 11.5.10 and you're not familiar with the way that, what's different between ledgers and sets of books, how does the subledger accounting behave versus the way that the existing subledgers in 11.5.10 behave, those types of things are all things that we offer training on new features. Exactly. And we also offer what we call Delta Review, functionality review. So that's at the beginning of looking at an assessment, if you're trying to figure out which one of these options should you take, we can do a small engagement where we kind of go through and show you the new features and functionality off of one of our environments. So we can show you 12.2, and we can show you what the functionality would look like in 12.2 to help you decide. Some customers want to see a test upgrade done first of their environment, and then have a break point where we say, okay, now if we've done a test upgrade, let's run through what the new functionality is and how that affects your environment, so that so you can decide whether or not you want to try and leverage new functionality or whether you want to keep extensions. Those are things that can be done. That's under what I would call the Delta functionality review. This is it's more of a project Gantt chart version of some of that information that we just went over. It depicts, so if you're going from left to right and top to bottom, you would start with the upgrade assessment, and here it's depicted kind of going into that second technical upgrade. But we actually offer that automated assessment is a much smaller piece at the very beginning of that. This part of the assessment goes into if you have, we've dealt with customers where they literally have thousands of technical extensions that they've built or customizations. And so if you're going to go through detailed rework of those types of things, it can take you out into that, the timeline of that second round of technical testing. That middle section says technical upgrade support. And you see the boxes that say technical upgrade, functional test, technical upgrade 2, functional test 2, technical upgrade 3, functional test 3. We follow an iterative process. We do the first pass, we're doing a test upgrade to see what the steps are, to document the steps that are actually required in detail for your particular environment. Are there any special patches that have to be applied? Were there any special data conditions that pose problems for your upgrade? Those types of things have to be resolved. So we create a client-specific, cookbook or recipe of the steps to complete the upgrade during that first technical upgrade. We also get some baseline timings to help figure out how long it will take. Then there's an initial functional regression test that we do in conjunction with you, and that's the coloration on that, where it's going blue to black, is intended to say that can be shared activity, where we can do that together to figure out, to make sure that all of the functionality that you used before still works the way you wanted it to work. This is not, once the upgrade is done, the things that were upgraded should not be broken from a technical perspective, but there are situations where business processes work differently in release 12.1 or 12.2 than they did in 11.5.10, and as a result, you may need to make a change to your configuration. There are also, depending on the modules that you use, there are some modules that have particular issues related to their upgrade, particularly like service contracts for some customers has some very specific issues related to it that have to be dealt with. So there's a number of things that are identified during that first functional test. Then, assuming that there are extensions to be reworked, the technical upgrade to the second round is really to provide a time box and window within which the technical rework can be performed and tested for your upgrade. So we do the technical rework, and we do a re-upgrade of the environment, and then a re-functional test to make sure that those pieces work. The third one is really the dry run for production. So after all the kinks have been ironed out in the first and second rounds, in the third round we're doing the dry run for production upgrade, and then we do the final production upgrade. Some customers only need to have 2 rounds because they don't have many, if any, extensions to worry about, and some customers use 4 rounds because they said some of them have literally thousands of extensions that need to be reworked. So that the amount of time the upgrade takes and the number of cycles is client dependent. That's something we work out in conjunction based on the assessment that we do. And then you get into these Delta offerings. The Delta workshops is like the Delta functionality review. The Delta training would be training on the new features and functionality. Chemly retrofit is reworking of the actual extensions to make them compliant with the new environment. And then we can support with things like regression testing. We can support with things like performance testing if that's a concern. If there are non-application reporting tools often that are involved, there may be a need, like some folks use more for apps as an example, and there may be needs to either patch or apply or rework reports based on that were developed in these external tools. And then we can provide, as we said, we're certified training partners, so we can provide any type of training on new modules that are implemented or on the new functionality of the existing modules. And then the bottom bar is intended to just apply. And any new functionality, modules, business flows, et cetera, that need to be added to your business process can also be looked at during this layered on top. So that's basically saying you're laying implementation of new functionality on top of an upgrade project. In addition to the, or I should say, I'm going to jump back to the previous slide, during the technical upgrade piece of this, where it says optional upgrade hosting services in the middle, that's where we're saying each of those upgrade cycles, they can be hosted by High Street if you don't have the bandwidth or the resources internally. And this slide is intended to talk about the capabilities of our hosting environment. We have a very robust, it's a level 3 data centers, two level 3 data centers, one in Denver, one in New York. We have a huge capacity within those environments, and we offer all of these basic capabilities within those environments. If you're interested in that, we can hook you up with folks from our cloud division to go through those in more detail. We also offer all of these cloud hosting services. In addition to the basic infrastructure, infrastructure as a service, we also offer application support as a service. So whether that's apps DBA support, OS, server, LAN, network administration support, EBS, just functional and or technical support can be provided. And then cloud management, if you're doing that in a hosted environment, we can scale your environment up and down as a service for you. So that's all available. As I said, all of this if you're interested, we can have you connect more with our cloud services division folks, and so I can take you through it in a lot more detail. So, kind of to summarize that, the timing is, if you've been waiting for a while, the timing is right for a couple of reasons. 12.2 is out now. It's been out for a little while. It's stable. We have a number of customers who are already on it. And in addition to that, the support window for the backend side, particularly for the database, is starting to close. So it's the right opportunity to stay current on what would be a stable EBS environment. You pick up the functionality benefits, the patching pieces, the online patching, the new functionality of the applications, and there are several different approaches to that. You can take from minimal all the way to the get current full approach. We have a number of consultants who focus on upgrade and upgrade-related services, and we have a whole practice that just focuses on that. So we have people who are familiar not only with the apps in the new versions, but taking people through the upgrade steps and cycles that we just outlined. And then in addition to that, we offer the hosting cloud services to go along with that. So if you don't have the infrastructure bandwidth and you need that type of support as well, we can offer that. Now, if you've been patient enough to hang in through that whole presentation, the upside for this is we are offering for a limited time now a free upgrade assessment for customers. So we will, at our effort and expense, run our utility against your environment and create an upgrade assessment document that details what we see as the environmental issues that you'll be facing and what we recommend is the steps required to complete your upgrade and the timeline and effort that goes along with that. So if you're interested in that, you can contact either Bill Smythe or myself, and our contact information is right here on the screen. So feel free to give us a call. And with that kind of takes us through the entire presentation. If you have any questions, I guess, Beth, if you're there, if you can go ahead and open up the lines. And were there any questions on the chat side? Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything on the chat. I didn't see it. Beth, were there any chat questions?
Yep, I have one, and the lines are open, and one did come in through the chat, and it was just in reference to the assessment, and how long does that take?
Yeah. The assessment, it's an automated tool, so the act of running the assessment doesn't take more than a few hours, but to complete out the assessment process from our standpoint, reviewing the output of the tool and creating the response to that takes a couple of days, and then obviously we just need a little lead time to coordinate when that could be done. So figure it's only a few days worth of work.
Okay, great.
Are there any other questions?
The lines are open. Okay, so there's no other questions. Doesn't seem like there are. Speak now, or you can always follow up with Sean or I. But I want to thank you for participating. I'm sorry, is there a question?
Just feedback.
Oh, just feedback, okay. Thank you again for participating, and as we were saying, we can help you a little bit or a lot, depending on what your needs are, and I think we'll wrap it up at this point. You have our contact information, and you can also gain additional information from our website, but we'd love to hear from you. If you've got some questions, we'd be happy to do a one-off conversation. So that's it for now. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.